Hello, my name is Sam Feltham and welcome to Expert Interviews here on Smash the Fat. And today it is my pleasure to introduce to you author of The Perfect Health Diet and astrophysicist Paul Jaminet, PhD. How you doing, Paul?
Oh, I'm doing great, Sam.
Fantastic, fantastic to have you here. It's not only a real honour just to have you on the show. It's also because I didn't tell you this before we started the interview, but your book, Perfect Health Diet, is actually our recommended read of the month this month. Because I think it's an absolutely fantastic book that everybody that's interested in sort of optimal health and things like that needs to read, undoubtedly. So I just wanted to congratulate you on being recommended read of the month for July, Paul. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much. That's terrific. Yeah, I really hope we can help your audience smash the fat.
Absolutely, mate. That's exactly what it says in the title, for sure. Fantastic. The Perfect Health Diet is all about optimal health, but you haven't always had optimal health because your kind of journey into the health world from astrophysics, which kind of seems like a bit of a dog's leg way of doing it. But what kind of got you into advising people on health and sort of improving your own health as well?
Yeah, it was really, I got into improving my own health first. And, so I had always had some health problems dating from when I was a baby. My mother had some health problems. She was diagnosed with cancer while she was pregnant with me. And I was in and out of the hospital with infections through age 4, chronic ear infections and some other problems. And I had terrible acne for a long time and got antibiotics and Accutane treatment for it in my 20s, and that really kicked off. My health got worse while I was treated with the antibiotics, and it kept getting worse every year after that. And I started to feel terrible, but I had neurological symptoms which really scared me, like memory loss and other problems, very slow reactions, and so I started getting really concerned, but I didn't really have any idea how to go about fixing it until I discovered the paleo diet. But I created a bunch of problems on the paleo diet too because I developed some nutrient deficiencies, and so my wife and I just went to work fixing the paleo diet, figuring out how to fix all the problems, make it as healthy as it could be. And that took us 5 years, but we ended up fixing our own health problems. And we figured, oh, this is so much work. We should really write it up and, let other people get the benefit of our work. And so that's what we did. And fortunately, it's really proven itself in the years since. It's, helped thousands of people cure diseases and fix their problems. So we're really pleased.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a fantastic book that you kind of put together, which is available via Amazon. If people go across to smashthefat.com/PhD, they can grab it there, or they can just check out all of your information on your blog and website, which is perfecthealth.com, perfecthealthdiet.com, sorry. Yeah, absolutely, perfecthealthdiet.com. And the basis for all of this is your Perfect Health apple, which if we look at my camera right here, is right here, which is also available on your blog and website, so people can just check it out right there. And it's a fantastic construction that you've kind of put there. So the actual sort of main bit of the apple is like a bit of a yin and yang symbol, with sort of some safe starches, which will try and get into in a bit, along with some vegetables, herbs and spices in that part of the yin and yang. And then on the other side is kind of sauces and soups, with meat, fish and eggs and things. And then kind of in the shadow of the apple itself, you have your do not eat, which is grains, vegetable oil, sugar and legumes. So let's start off with the do not eat. Why wouldn't we want to eat grains, vegetable oil, sugars and legumes in order to help our health?
Well, those are those are problematic foods. Basically, the grains and legumes, they co-evolved with herbivorous mammals, like cows and horses and zebras and so on. And their seeds kept getting eaten. And in order to protect the seeds, they developed chemicals which suppress mammalian digestion. And so they have a lot of compounds which are not necessarily good for us. They, suppress the functioning of our cells, and not all of them are destroyed in cooking. And so we think it's prudent to generally avoid those. There are enough of what we call the safe starches, whose toxins are destroyed in cooking, that we don't think you need to eat wheat or soybeans or a lot of those other things that have toxins that aren't destroyed in cooking. And so that's with them. And then the vegetable seed oils, they just have too much omega-6. So again, there are much better oils and fats to eat. Animal fats are generally healthy. And tropical plant oils like coconut milk, like olive oil, avocado oil, are all, macadamia nut butter. Those are all excellent fats and oils. So, and as far as the sugars, there are some, healthy sweet things to eat like fruit, berries, beets, and it's best to get sweets from natural whole foods. And we don't need that much. And so if you're eating a natural whole foods diet, it's very easy to get the optimal amount of sugar. Yeah. And if you add sugar to things, then it quickly becomes too much. And so our strategy for our book is to try to figure out the optimal amount of each thing, and we try to get our readers to aim for perfection in every aspect of life, because it turns out there's many, many different factors that affect your health. And when people get sick, it's usually because they're doing 40 or 50 things wrong. And all those things conspire together and compound each other. And so there's no one thing you can fix. There's no magic bullet. But if you aim for perfection, if you fix lots of little things, then your health usually gets dramatically better. And so you can improve your health by cutting out those do not eat things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's kind of the best place to start for people, isn't it? Is maybe just start to avoid those 4 things that you've kind of explained there, that being the grains, vegetable oil, sugar, and legumes. And that's kind of a good starting point for people. But another thing that you've kind of got in there is the pleasure foods, which are kind of 2 leaves in the stalk of the apple as well. It's a great visual representation, Paul. You and your wife should be very proud of it. But, yeah, you've got dairy and nuts in the pleasure foods, along with some chocolate, which is the stalk, obviously, and then some alcohol, fruit and berries, and kind of fructose-free sweeteners as well. So why is kind of dairy and nuts in the pleasure foods and sort of in reduced amounts compared to, say, like the meat, fish, and eggs and things like that?
Yeah, well, the pleasure foods are things that are healthy if you eat them in small doses, but you can easily eat too much. And they're also things that people get a lot of pleasure out of, and so it's not uncommon for them to overdo them. And so for example, for nuts, for a while, years ago, my wife would put a bowl of nuts on my desk every morning, and I'd be working there, and it'd be very easy to reach over and just eat a ton of nuts all day. Yeah. And similarly with chocolate or with alcohol, you can overdo it. The optimal amount of alcohol is about half a glass per day. And I find if I drink about half a glass or 1 glass at dinner, then I can continue working just fine. But if I drink, if I just followed, my desires, I probably drink 2 or 3 glasses, and then I'm not as functional after dinner. And it's not as healthy either. And so similarly with dairy, it's a healthful thing in moderation. Actually, that's one of my favorite desserts, is a a glass of milk with a little bit of honey and turmeric,
Mm-hmm.
warm it up in the microwave. That makes a great
Brilliant.
dessert. And but it's not necessarily something that you want to make a major part of your calories or replace meals with. And so that's what the pleasure foods are. They're fine in small doses,
Mm-hmm.
but
Not the main consistence
right.
of your diet for sure. And what kind of alcohol do you recommend for people to drink? Is there any particular alcohol, or is like vodka fine and beer fine? What's the best alcohol?
Um, yeah, well, spirits are okay. We probably recommend wine the most.
Mhm.
It's the closest to a natural whole food, made from our approved foods. Uh, beer can have gluten and some other things. It's not as bad as eating bread. So if you like beer, I would consider that a cheat, but it's not as bad a cheat as many others. Um, so at our retreats, we serve small amounts of wine. We don't have beer or spirits. But if people preferred, uh, spirits with a little bit of fruit juice or something, then that's not terrible.
Absolutely. And what fructose-free sweeteners do you guys recommend to use?
Well, for sweeteners, we basically recommend in terms of powders, we would recommend dextrose powder, which is pure glucose.
Hmm.
And in terms of syrups, we would recommend either honey, which is not fructose free but has a lot of healthy compounds in it.
Yeah.
Organic raw honey would probably be our top recommendation. And then you can also get some safe starch syrups, which are basically safe starches like tapioca or rice, which have been pre-digested with enzymes to produce, sweet-tasting glucose-based sugars. And so in general on our diet, we recommend getting most carbohydrates as glucose, maybe 85% glucose, 15% fructose. And that means a mix of sweet foods and starchy foods. And if you're going to eat a significant amount of sweeteners, then you should try to mimic that ratio. So maybe mix equal amounts of honey with a dextrose uh, type thing. So if you were doing baking and you wanted to use sweets, or making ice cream and you wanted to put something in, those would be a good way to sweeten the ice cream.
Absolutely, absolutely brilliant. And the one thing that is very different to kind of a lot of paleo and kind of low carb diets is that you make sure that people get in a decent amount of safe starches in their daily diet. Now, why is it that you feel that safe starches are a must in like an optimal health diet?
Well, it's partly because we think a certain amount of carbohydrates are a must for
Yeah.
optimal health. And like we said, it looks like the most healthful, so carbohydrates get digested to simple sugars like glucose and fructose, and it looks like the most healthful mix of sugars is going to be around 85% glucose. And but most sweet plants like fruit are around 50-50 glucose and fructose. So fructose is not quite as good for us as glucose. It's not as good for our gut bacteria, and it's not as healthful in the body. Uh, it's not as useful. So our blood sugar is in the form of glucose, and glucose is the form cells want to take up. And so the best thing to do is to get most of our carbohydrates in forms that digest to glucose, and that would be starches. And starches also have a beneficial form of fiber called resistant starch, which is very good for our gut bacteria, whereas the sugars tend to be a little bit less good
Hmm.
uh, for our gut bacteria. And so, so basically we want people to get about 30% of calories from carbohydrates, and we want uh, the majority of those to come from starches.
Yeah, absolutely. And any in particular starches at all that you feel are the most beneficial out of the ones that you list?
Well, the ones we eat the most of are white rice and potatoes. And white rice is extremely convenient. We cook it in a pressure cooker, often with a bone and joint stock rather than water as the fluid, and it's quite delicious. And then we generally cook it at night, refrigerate it overnight, and then eat it the next day. And the refrigeration generates more resistant starch.
Yeah.
And similarly, potatoes we cook in a batch the night and then refrigerate them, eat them over 2 or 3 days. And potatoes are a very healthful food. And, so those are our favorites, but then we also eat taro. We also eat some other things. Tapioca figures in a lot of gluten-free baking. So rice flour, potato starch, tapioca starch are good flours for noodles or baking. And a few others that are probably worth noting are buckwheat and Japanese mountain yam. And the nice thing about those two is they make somewhat sticky flours which cohere together. So if you wanted to make pizza or something, those would be good choices. So there's a classic Japanese dish called okonomiyaki. We have the recipe for it on our site, which uses the Japanese mountain yam.
Nice. So yeah, definitely check that out, because if you get a nice sticky kind of dough, then it's almost like it's kind of like a proper wheat-based kind of base, right?
Yeah. So the problem with a lot of gluten-free flours is they tend to crumble,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still tasty. I like the taste better, but they're more convenient to eat if they stick together nicely. And buckwheat or the Japanese mountain yam will achieve that for you.
Nice, love it. And you kind of recommended, as you said there, about 30% of your calories to come from sort of safe starches and things like that. And then how does the rest of the diet kind of look in terms of protein and fat for you?
Well, I think the best way to think about it is you want roughly equal proportions of a meat or fish, starch, a sweet plant like fruits, beets, berries, and then vegetables. And roughly your plate should be about 3/4 plant food, 1/4 meat or fish, and then flavor it to taste with healthy fats and acids like lemon, lime juice, vinegar, and umami flavors. Those are fermented foods, so things like fish sauce or tamari sauce or various other fermented flavors. And or you can get the umami flavors from things like aged cheese. So you could grate Parmesan cheese as a flavoring, things like that. One of the things we realized is that the most healthful food combinations are also the most delicious food combinations. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about it. So our brain wouldn't have evolved a liking for foods unless they were good for us. And so that's a very fortunate thing. And, so people shouldn't be shy about making their food delicious and flavoring it with, fats, and other good flavorings until it tastes as good as they can make it.
Absolutely. And getting herbs and spices involved is so important. People feel as though they're kind of that a real foods diet is kind of boring and tasteless for some reason. But if you include those fats that you were talking about there, herbs and spices and things, you can really get some amazing flavors from real food, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think when people go to expensive restaurants, you're basically eating a natural whole foods diet, very much a PhD diet, at least with certain food substitutions, and it's delicious. And so you can definitely make a natural whole foods diet delicious. If it's not delicious, then probably people are eating outdated versions of an ancestral diet, like a lean meat and vegetables approach. So if all you're having is chicken breast and spinach, then that's not going to be very tasty. But if you get a little more diversity of foods and flavorings into your meal, then it's going to be quite delicious.
Absolutely, and arguably, kind of like a chicken breast and spinach isn't particularly nutritious as it would be with herbs, spices, and some fats involved in there as well.
Right, that's right. And it's missing a lot of valuable things like the carbohydrates, the plant-associated nutrients. Um, and, spinach is quite a good health food, but, there are still things missing.
Absolutely. And what herbs and spices do you guys use kind of on a daily basis to supplement sort of your healthy diet and the taste?
Well, salt and pepper, of course.
Yeah.
Turmeric is fairly common, or curry, like in Indian spices. We use a lot of Asian flavors, so we'll use, just a bit of tamari sauce, or we'll use a lot of Thai type flavors like lemongrass. We'll use ginger. We use a lot of green herbs like cilantro or basil. And let's see. Well, those are probably the main ones. But we'll use just about anything in a spice cabinet. And so a lot of the herbs and spices, they're kind of like super vegetables. They're kind of, first of all, they're dried, so they've concentrated a lot of the nutrients, and they do have a lot of nutritional value per unit weight, as well as many of them were traditional medicines, and they have some pharmacological antimicrobial effects. So people who don't eat vegetables or herbs and spices are much more likely to get a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or fungal infections or things like that. So vegetables are kind of a really good way to help keep your gut flora in good shape. So it's good practice to include both vegetables and herbs and spices in your cooking.
Absolutely. And are there any kind of particular fats that you guys cook in for specific reasons?
Yeah, well, we like beef tallow, animal fat. So we do a lot of cooking. We make bone and joint stock, and use that in place of water in almost all recipes. And we make soups regularly with it. And one thing when you start preparing a stock out of bones, the bones degrease very quickly in the first few hours, and so you get a pretty thick layer of fat on top, and that's actually a very good cooking fat. So we separate that out after a few hours, and then we'll restore it to our soups and so on to give them a fatty flavor. Like Vietnamese pho, should be fatty, and but we'll also use that for cooking. We also get some beef fat from local farmers, and we'll render that and use that for cooking. We also use butter if we're cooking at low temperatures, or clarified butter. We make our own clarified butter or ghee, and we'll use that for cooking at higher temperatures, or for something that we want to store in the refrigerator. So if you cook something in butter, butter has sugar and protein, and so things will go bad relatively quickly if you're storing them and they've been cooked in butter. But if you cook them in clarified butter, they'll last a long time. And then coconut milk and coconut oil are good cooking fats. We generally don't cook much with other oils, so we'll use olive oil as a salad dressing, but we generally don't cook with it. So those are probably our major fats and oils.
Absolutely, because it's quite common for people to cook with something like olive oil over, say, like beef tallow, or what's called beef dripping over here, and that's because people think because that's a saturated fat, that's going to be bad for me, and olive oil is so good for me. Why wouldn't we want to cook in olive oil, and we would want to cook with something like beef tallow or lard or something like that?
Yeah, well, the saturated fats tend to be the ones that stand up the best to heat, and to high temperature cooking. Um, so olive oil is okay for most cooking temperatures. In general, you should cook foods gently and not use very high temperatures. You should never get close to the smoke point of oils. But olive oil has relatively more polyunsaturated fats, which are a little more heat sensitive. Has a lot of vegetable polyphenols, some of which are heat sensitive, and those are good for you. And so, now there are some temperature sensitive things in butter also, like cholesterol. Uh, so all fats should be, and all foods generally should be cooked gently for optimal health. But in general, I think the beef fat is the one that stands up best to high heat and is least likely to be degraded. So, beef tallow, rendered beef fat, is probably the best cooking oil.
Absolutely, and it's what we kind of used to cook in sort of back in the day, but then we switched over to the polyunsaturated fatty acids,
Yeah,
and vegetable oils and things like this. And why is that bad for us? What's going on sort of biochemically there?
with the vegetable oils, well, they're really high in omega-6 fats, which are not good for you, and so they really got pushed mainly because they're the ones that can be grown at northern latitudes, and so they're big agricultural crops in the United States. Things like soybeans, corn, corn oil, soybean oil. They're very high in omega-6 fats, and it's the nutritional guidelines in the U.S. are part of the U.S. Agriculture Department, and they were created in order to promote U.S. crops, really. And so, and we've had a lot of influence on diet, food manufacturers. And you mentioned everybody used to use beef fat because it's so delicious and it's healthful. And McDonald's used to cook their French fries in beef tallow. And the original founder, Ray Kroc, insisted that they stick with it because they tasted so good, but they switched in 1993, I think, to vegetable oil. And the French fries aren't the same. And, so it's very disappointing that, food manufacturers went away from these things. And, unfortunately, if you really want to eat healthy food, you almost have to cook for yourself. Things are getting better with the gluten-free food movement and other, movements toward organic food. But in terms of the oils, it's still hard to get good oils when you go out to eat.
Absolutely, and arguably, if McDonald's had kind of continued using beef tallow to fry their chips in, we might be in a better position than we are now in terms of heart disease and things like that, possibly.
Yeah, possibly it might have been, the obesity epidemic wouldn't have been as bad. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll never know, but sort of now that we know, we're trying to change it, and you guys are trying to be part of that, trying to change it through sort of a lot of the talks that you do, Paul, at say Paleo FX and the Ancestral Health Symposium, things like that. But also, you guys have got retreats available for people to come along to, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. So we do what we call perfect health retreats. And they're held for 2 weeks every May and October, and we'll probably do a summer one next year as well. And so we're currently taking reservations for October this year. They're on a fantastic beach on a barrier island in North Carolina. The water is warm. It's a beautiful time of year for weather. We're in the most luxurious property on the East Coast. So we've got a hot tub, a heated swimming pool. It's right on the beach. We have trainers. We have 2 to 3 physical training sessions a day in which we teach a whole curriculum. And we cover all aspects of movement, including rest, relaxation, massage, stress relief, as well as fitness and mobility and health. I give science classes twice a day, sort of an overview of everything you need to know to be healthy. We have cooking classes before every meal. We have terrific food, and we shape the environment so that it's as healthy as possible. We have, only orange lighting at night, bright white natural lighting in the day. Everything is, from temperature to lighting to everything else that's designed for optimal health. And we teach you how to carry that over back at home. And we also do health coaching beforehand to help you start implementing things at home before the retreat, and then follow-up health coaching afterwards to everyone who agrees to share their health data and health outcomes. And so we're really, trying to help people adopt a perfectly healthy ancestral lifestyle and diet, and we're helping them solve all their health problems, and then we're tracking results. And I'm an editor of the Journal of Evolution and Health, which is the Ancestral Health Society's journal, and we'll publish anonymous health results. And we really hope to prove that, this ancestral diet and lifestyle, really makes a huge health difference, and really get the ancestral health approach into the mainstream. And so we're really excited, and the retreats have been tremendous fun. And the people who come have been so fun to be with, and everybody's very supportive of each other and their health journeys. And so these have been a really fulfilling thing. And my partner in the Perfect Health Retreats, Whitney Ross Gray, had multiple sclerosis and has fixed her multiple sclerosis. And she eats PhD, and so ancestral health approaches, diet, and lifestyle can really accomplish tremendous things. And we really hope to bring those health improvements to lots more people and really prove that it works. And the ancestral health retreats, if you want to take a vacation in a lovely beach location, in a luxurious environment, and get the best education you can get in how to live healthfully, it's really a bargain. We're hoping people will add years to their life, and at the cost of a 1-week vacation, or 2-week vacation, however you choose to take it. So it's a great bargain, and we'd love to see anybody who wants to come.
Absolutely, absolutely. And people can check out details there on your website, perfecthealthdiet.com. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, that's right. So we have a tab called Perfect Health Retreat, and that has all the information under it.
Perfect, perfect. And also people can check out your book, which is available on Amazon via smashthefat.com/PhD. And I highly recommend everybody going to go read that this month, because it is our recommended read of the month. It's an absolutely fantastic book, full of very, very highly informed information, cited with the best research available, as well as some sort of down-to-earth kind of recipes and guidance as well. Is that kind of the best way to describe it, Paul?
Yeah, it's a, I would say what distinguishes it is it's very solidly grounded in science. When you finish reading it, you really understand the reasons for everything that you do. And it's also unique in that we take different approaches to ancestral diet and lifestyle. We're really trying to find what's naturally appropriate for us. And we don't just look at what did people do in the Paleolithic and how do we copy them. We look at all the sources of evidence, including what's best for animals. And so you can learn a little about what's best for your cat or dog as well as for you. And we also cover some lifestyle elements like intermittent fasting and circadian rhythm entrainment. So it's really a comprehensive look at how to be healthy, and it's really good for people who want to get a clearer picture of what the ancestral health movement is about, and want to understand the science and the evidence behind everything.
Absolutely, absolutely fantastic. There's only one more thing to do, Paul, and that's to hear us smash it out from Paul Jaminet, PhD. So on three, I'd like you to shout "smash it out" to the camera. So 1, 2, 3.
Smash it out.
There we go. Fantastic, Paul. Very much appreciate your time today, buddy. And yeah, as I said, everybody go check out Paul's book via Amazon, smashthefact.com/PhD. Check out his website and blog, which has got a ton of information on it, perfecthealthdiet.com. And otherwise, Paul, hope to speak to you soon, and also hopefully get you over here at some point to the UK.
Yeah, I'd love to come to the UK. We've got a lot of great fans there that I've never met, so it would be terrific to be there.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Paul, have a good day, buddy, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, thank you, Sam.